Hi everyone, welcome to the Solar and Storage Market Series. My name is Erez Dolev and I'm Managing Director here at RENVU. Today we are going to be hearing from John Cromer, Head of Training at Sol-Ark, about their commercial solutions, interconnection strategies, and marketing applications. We also have with us today Kyle Peace, a Senior Engineer at RENVU, to share RENVU's advanced online design and quote generating tool and show how to create complicated quotes with full bill of materials in just a few minutes. But before we dive in and while we're waiting for more people to join, I'd like to give a little background on RENVU and some of the products and services we offer. RENVU is a US-based solar equipment distributor. We have been in the industry since 2012, and we currently have fulfillment facilities in California, New Jersey, and Texas. Our sales staff all have backgrounds within engineering and solar installations. A few products quickly to spotlight here. We carry the whole Sol-Ark portfolio. We also have HomeGrid, Discover, GrowOut, Soluna, Renon. We have also Enphase and Fortress Power batteries, and we can beat any price you see out there. So let our sales engineers quote you if you need. We have also the Sol-Ark L3 commercial battery banks to pair with the three-phase 30K or 60K inverters. We carry the whole Runner-G modules. This is a Tier 1, Bloomberg Tier 1 manufacturer. We have the residential 395 through 405 black. We have commercial 535 through 580 modules with the N-type. We have the whole portfolio of Enphase IQ8 series, including the IQ8X, MC, HC, AC, and Plus. And we have also Enphase 5P batteries and the legacy 3T and 10T battery banks. If you are looking for T-gaskets to make solar array watertight, Blick has several options for different modules gap sizes. Email us at info@renvu.com or see our webinar follow-up email with more information about these. We partnered with two financing companies. Credit Key offers credit lines up to 50,000 with approval in a few minutes, and can increase that with a review of 3 months of bank statements up to $250,000. Build is another financing option that is designed for CNI projects. Your credit line will be approved based on a specific CNI project, and you will be able to use it for other business purchases as well. Bill is also give you a rebate of 0.5% of your purchase with RENVU. So this is another nice token here. So next time you have a CNI project, we recommend you to contact us to set up your credit line with them. Here's our bulk module price list for large volume options and our upcoming offerings of solar modules. We carry Runner-G, Zenshine, Canadian Solar, Qcells, Hyundai, Telsun, and more. We're sharing in the chat a link to this page, and we update it regularly so you can stay up to date with our latest deals and bulk orders. Take a minute here also to mention Blick. This is a residential carport. It's a great way to expand existing solar systems or an alternative solution where you cannot install solar on a roof. And when customer is looking for more added values for their solar system. We start this short video here. The carport is designed to be assembled by a small crew. It doesn't require any specialized or heavy machinery to install. This is a solar structure, so it's eligible for the 30% ITC and possibly the extra 10% for domestic content, because this is made in the US and using locally sourced steel. It's modules and inverters agnostic. It is designed and fabricated in the US and made from US sourced galvanized steel and comes with a 25 years warranty. The structure is coming with a Texas Structural Engineer PE stamp. You can install up to 24 solar modules with 4 columns of 6 modules. A 2-car carport will generate about 10 kilowatt. You can use residential and commercial modules with it. with load capacities of up to 48 pound per square foot snow and 215 miles per hour wind load, and the seismic design category F. We're sharing a link to the full version of this video in the chat, and we'll also add it in the follow-up email. Now I will hand it over to Kyle Peace to go over the online quoting and generating quote generating tool to show you how you can generate a quote with a full system in just a few minutes, and we'll get started with the webinar. I'll hand it to you, Kyle.
Thanks, Aris. All right, I am going to share my screen. And here's design and quote tool. Go to the home page first and full screen. All right, so we are on renvu.com here. This is the home page. Before you get started using the tool, make sure that you are logged in. You'd see your name or company name up in the top right corner there. If you don't have an account, there's a login or register button up in that top right corner. Just takes a few minutes to punch in your email and then a good delivery address so that we can send you a copy of the quote and calculate the shipping cost. So once you're logged in, you have your name up there, you can hit this top orange banner anywhere on the site and it'll take you to the design quote tool, or on the home page, you can hit this icon here and it'll jump over to this landing page. So this start page of the designing quote tool, you can choose between a full system or a subset. If you already have panels, or maybe you want to use a panel that's not on our tool at the moment, you can deselect that, and then under edit panel properties, you need to throw in a string here just so it'll run. We're working on improving that, but then we just need the wattage and some panel properties there, dimensions, and you can begin configuring that. So I just want to point that out, but in this example, I'm going to go through a full system with the panels that we have uploaded to the tool at the moment. Right now we have a wide range of Hyperion and the parent company Renergy modules as options. It starts with the 405 black on black residential module, and you can also choose those commercial 545, 550, and the new N-type 575s as options. One of the nice things about this page is that you can choose, looking at different panels, and just see the relative cost per watt metric change. So that could help you just get an initial idea. This is only for a tier quantity of one panel. So when you're buying, if you're buying in larger quantities, pallets and whatnot, that cost per watt goes down. But this gives you like a baseline to start with to understand the relative cost of the different options. This is especially helpful when we have lots of options up to choose from. So I wanted to point that out as well. Once we've chosen a module, onto the racking page, and we can choose between pitch roof, flat roof, carport, and ground mount. Under pitch roof, you can choose your roof material type. Same with ground mount, you can select between the what do we have? The ballasted power field tubs. It's like a cost-effective option for if you just need to, if you just have some ground area you want to cover quickly, you put those tubs down, put in some gravel, and you can put up your array in short order and then take it down quickly if you ever needed to as well. Or we have the Iron Ridge pipe-based ground mount systems as well. Under the carport, there's those blicker carports that Aris pointed out. And then today I'm going to show a flat roof ballasted commercial system in my example. And this ballasted system goes with the Iron Ridge 10 degree BX. Those are really popular with our commercial installers. We're going to go with 3 rows of 33 for this example. The portrait versus landscape we use in pitched roof scenarios, but no need to pay attention to that in this example. We're working on cleaning that up as well. So we'll have 99 of the 575s for a DC array of 50, just about 57 kilowatts. And on to the inverter step. We can choose between microinverters, optimizers, a string inverter, based systems. We have really good pricing options on these Enphase microinverters, but in this example, we're looking at a commercial storage design. So we're going to look at those string inverters. Then the next thing you want to choose is if it's energy storage or not. In this case, we're going to look at a energy storage example, and this is going to be commercial. So we're going to be looking at typically 208 or 480 volt. I'm going to jump to the 480 under the options there. We have Sol-Ark and Fortress. Sol-Ark's been super popular, so I'm going to show that Sol-Ark 60K, which is a pretty decent pairing with this initial array size. And as you're making your selections, you'll see a bill of materials load on that left-hand side. If you're not sure what any of the components are, you can click on that and it will open a new page. You won't lose your spot on the design tool, but you'll get to see that item page, any of the details that we've included to explain the product a little more, and then manufactured documents, which you can get a little more educated on that product, how it installs, how it fits into your system. So I wanted to point that out. It's kind of a neat feature we have there. Jumping back over to that design tool. We chose the Sol-Ark 60K and then energy storage for that inverter. We can choose between indoor and outdoor options. If you need a larger kilowatt hour minimum size, you can bump up that number. Say you need something over 100, it would then scale to 2 of those 60 kilowatt hour banks. Or if you need something really large, we can supply that Discover AES 210 just right in to any of the emails you get from us with your quote number, and we can modify that manually. We should have that up on the design tool shortly as well. Additionally, this is going to be a ballasted roof mount system, so we're going to need rapid shutdown. You can choose between the Tigo TS4A0s or the A2Fs. I like the A0s because they give that granular level monitoring optimization that a lot of our installers like as well for maintenance. So there is the inverter options. Once you are happy with your selections there, you can go onto the final page. You can add in some spare panels. For a system of this size, I would want to have at least a few panels on hand in case something gets dropped or busted, or in transport there's something broken. You're not left scrambling to find a couple extra panels in those scenarios. And then you have check boxes to add on cables, connectors, wire clips, PV labels, smart panels, and EV chargers if you want as well. Then once you're happy with your selections there, you'll get onto the final quote page where you can review your bill of materials. If you need to go back at any point, you can go back to any step and then redo your selections. And then once you're happy with it, hit generate project and email me a quote. This will shoot an email off to the account that you registered under. You'll get a PDF copy of that quote along with the quote number. And then our team in sales, we do proactively look through those quotes on a weekly basis. And if we see any opportunities for discounts or availability concerns or configuration concerns, we like to go in and give some catered responses that could help you out in planning your project and maybe save you some money as well. Also, once you have that quote number, if you need a permit plan set, just go over these permit plan services. We work with Alumni, and you just send over a copy of your proposal or sales order, fill out the basic permit form, and they are very quick and adept at filling out or generating that drafting material for you to submit to your AHJ. If you need any PE stamps, they can do structural and electrical as well for a very reasonable rate. And finally, as there is pointed out, if you need financing, you can jump over to for commercial credit key or for C&I projects, which has been really popular with the Sol-Ark energy storage in particular. To have that cash flow, build's been really great. Once we have a sales order in our system, I can easily send that over to our internal contacts over at Build. They can review your application, and I've seen projects financed within 24 hours in some cases. So definitely recommend that if you're an installer looking to get into these larger commercial systems. If you can win a project contract, this will really help with the cash flow. So definitely want to make sure you guys are aware of that. That is about all I have for our design tool and our services and pipeline here. So I'm going to give it back over to Aris. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. If you have any questions about these products or about Sol-Ark while John is presenting, please feel free to ask in the Q&A section. There is a button in the Zoom pan for Q&A, and we will get to the questions at the end of the webinar or during the presentation if it's relevant. You can also email our sales team at info@renvu.com for more information and pricing. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send you a link in a follow-up email. We also have recordings of previous webinars on the RENVU YouTube channel. And without further ado, I will hand it over to John.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Okay, so welcome everyone. We're going to do a very quick overview of Sol-Ark. I assume most of you are familiar with Sol-Ark already, but nonetheless, it's worth noting we are a brick and mortar company in the United States. Our headquarters is in North Dallas. You can come by and take a tour. We run all of our operations, all of our technical support, all of our RMA servicing, our warehousing, out of our headquarters. It's a 300,000 square foot facility. We do have a distributed sales team and a distributed field application engineering team. You'll learn more how to interface with our team in a few slides. But Sol-Ark as a company is over a decade old at this point. Uh, our product line itself goes back to 2018. So what I like about when we release a new inverter, it's very obvious and apparent that we're building off of the same system architecture that's been in the field in a substantial way since 2018, as far as large format transformerless hybrid inverters. Uh, Before Sol-Ark, a hybrid inverter was a battery inverter that could charge or discharge from the grid, and then after Sol-Ark, a hybrid inverter is a solar plus battery inverter. So we see a lot of the competition coming into the hybrid inverter space, and we are confident knowing that we have the most field experience in large form factor transformerless hybrids. So we're going to talk more about in detail in this presentation about our commercial product line, our commercial batteries and commercial inverters. But whether it's residential or commercial, whether it's small residential or large residential, Sol-Ark's thing has always been a feature-rich hybrid inverter that kind of contains everything you need in a project to make projects easier to install. Our 15K, like our commercial product line, it contains a grid pass-through so that you can just hook up the grid and hook up your service panel and hook up a generator and hook up your solar array, and your wiring box is already built into the inverter. So that kind of differentiates Sol-Ark beyond our competition, is just expanding the limits of what an all-in-one hybrid inverter can be. We support AC coupling. We prefer you do DC coupling if you can. But for example, if you want to keep the existing solar array in place and then expand it through DC coupling, that's a nice strategy. We also do battery only installations, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I would say to the solar installers in the audience, you will limit yourself if you don't think of yourself as a battery installer first, with solar being an accessory to the battery, because there's even more opportunity out there in battery only projects, particularly in commercial, as we'll get into in a minute. Back on the residential topic, the key differentiator between Sol-Ark and the rest is that we have this focus on our all-in-one inverter. Our competition, Tesla, Enphase, Franklin, they have to be combined on a whatever it's called, the smart switch or the gateway. The electric code calls it a MID panel. And with a Sol-Ark, the MID is already built into the inverter. So that's one less thing to install and hook up. So yeah, Sol-Ark inverters do tend towards the pricier side, but a lot of that is because you're saving on the balance of system material required to get through the project. So a simple project, just the meter lands on the inverter, everything lands on the inverter. You do the full grid pass through to the main service panel, and that's a very simple whole home backup inverter, project on a single inverter. And what's nice about delivering an inverter that is large enough to be capable of whole home backup, the ability to start a 4-ton air conditioning unit, uh, of that degree of magnitude, is that you can scale the batteries independently of the inverter. And by and large, the limitation in whole home backup has been cost and affordability. And the most expensive item on site is the battery bank. And customers have not bought enough batteries, not because they don't want more batteries, but because they've been budget limited. And what the Sol-Ark architecture allows you to do is scale up the battery bank capacity without scaling up the inverter capacity, which you can't do with Franklin or Tesla or Enphase. You have to scale the inverter up at the same time as the battery. So especially when you get into, what really constitutes a whole home backup system, that's where the Sol-Ark architecture really carves out a cost competitive niche. And anything less than that, you're still getting, the support of a company that actively is invested in supporting whole home backup systems and customers and architecture here in the United States. Um, Getting into our commercial series, we have our own battery option. Oh, so I guess one final note on that. We are compatible with HomeGrid. HomeGrid is our most popular stackable battery. They've done the stackable form factor longer than anyone else on the market, and like Sol-Ark, we think that experience and time on the market is time well spent. Renon is a new market entrant coming in a big way, and also has a stackable form factor. So, there's multiple options. Discover is another one who has been in the market for a long time, but is on the market with a non-stackable battery. It's called a monolith, and it's more like a Tesla Powerwall or a Franklin in terms of one large heavy thing, but at a very competitive price point. So whether it's like ease of installation or pricing or a built-in battery heating option, having a little bit of battery choice by companies that are long enough and have enough market share or time on the market or investment into the market to know that they'll uh, stick around to honor their warranty, uh, combined with the security that if the company for one reason or another is not around at the end of the 10-year mark, you still have a degree of competition to know that the 48 volt platform is reliable has been around, has lots of viable options, so that, when it comes time to replace the batteries down the road, one way or another, you have the ability to update the system and maintain the system rather than rip and replace. For commercial, we have our own battery line. Um, the price sensitivity in commercial is not as much as ease of installation. So, while the feature sets for, residential can be varied, in terms of warranty or, heating or indoor, outdoor. With commercial, we wanted to keep everything in-house, to focus on reliability and support. So these batteries are produced specifically for our inverter. They're very easy to install. There's no dip switches. There's no, it's all auto configuring. We use higher end cell format, which is prismatic. It's more durable than pouch or cylindrical. A little bit more expensive, but more durable. So we're not, experimenting with outdoor locations. We're giving you what's, the best. Um, we go with built-in fire suppression, which can get you out of commercial indoor water sprinkler requirements per NFPA 855, allows for aerosol exemption by the AHJ. So that can save on some project planning. Um, it's a modular system. We'll get into the sizing in a minute, but remember this system is stackable, so you can build with the inverters. You can add more and more inverters and accommodate larger and larger electric service. And we're going to talk about this stackability as we go. But fundamentally, the batteries wire in series, and with 208 volt versus 480 volt for the indoor battery bank, there's a slight different battery stack. For 208 volt, our indoor battery cabinets are 40 kilowatt hour stacks. For indoor, um, our 480 volt applications, a little bit higher AC voltage, also a little bit higher DC voltage, and it's a 60 kilowatt hour stack for our indoor on 480. So there's a difference in our indoor options between 208 volt service and 480 volt service. It's a 40 kilowatt hour versus a 60 kilowatt hour stack. These are very flexible stacks, and on our indoor options, you almost never run out of maximum battery capacity, but the increment of the battery is either in this 40 kilowatt hour or 60 kilowatt hour building block. Our outdoor solution is a single SKU, regardless of whether it's 208 or 480. So it came on the market a little bit after the indoor option, a little bit more simplified. It comes with the wiring for both the 208 or 480 volt option. If you are doing a 208 volt install, it's the less frequent of the two. So, make sure you give the wiring packet a good look when unpacking. We scaled down the outdoor compared to the indoor. So the outdoor, we allow up to 6 inverters and up to 6 battery cabinets per inverter. So that gets into 6 inverters times 30 kW, or 6 inverters times 60 kW. Again, that gets into some large systems. Um, 180 kW for 208 volt, 360 kW backup for 480 volt for our outdoor, um, kind of out of the box offering. The indoor system can go larger than that. The indoor system is listed up to 10 inverters and up to 16 battery cabinets per inverter. So you can do 10 megawatt hours with the indoor, although no one does. There are multi-megawatt hour systems out there on the Sol-Ark architecture. I haven't seen any 10 megawatt hour. Basically you have all the capacity you need. You can do the indoor solution outside. It's just that by that point, you're building your own battery room and putting our indoor batteries into your own, conditioned container, rather than, kind of a bring your own room. So, for small outdoor solutions, you're going to use our outdoor series. It's just quick and efficient. And then we have this lower cost indoor series line, uh, that can work inside or bring your own room. We're going to talk real quick about some applications and some quick and easy applications. The first is adding batteries to an existing solar array with a commercial. That's very easy with a Sol-Ark. You typically have in place with commercial solar a line side or supply side interconnection. And so you can undo that tap where that solar array is tapped onto the electric service and just drop in a Sol-Ark inverter in line. So in place of that tap, you lay in the conductors out to the transformer on the grid port of the Sol-Ark. You land any conductors running off to the service panel on the load port. Sometimes you don't use if you're not doing a backup project, but we always recommend backing up something on site with that load port. And then you also have this bonus port that where the gen port, and it's that gen port where your existing solar array would land onto with your AC coupled inverters. And so in effect, it's a drop-in replacement for your existing point of interconnection, and that you can just click on batteries to. So very simple, easy way to add batteries for utility demand response or facility peak demand management, and even provide some additional power, maybe to areas where there currently isn't power, like parking lot EV charging. Now, for reducing your electric bill, that doesn't necessarily always have to be a very large project. And so that's the next bit of our conversation is what does, time of use metering and peak shaving and demand response really look like? And a lot of times you can tell if you have a good project just by looking at one paper copy of a commercial electric bill, and you can see if it's a demand charge. If the bill is mostly demand charges, then you have a good commercial project. And if it's mostly energy charges, then it's probably more solar and less batteries. But just looking at the ratio between the demand charge and the energy charge can be revealing. Um, energy is your demand throughout the entire day, whereas demand is more instantaneous, and it's the maximum point throughout the entire day versus the area under the curve. So, if you have an electric bill that's mostly demand charges, that would be revealing that you have a spiky load profile. And if you have a spiky load profile, then you have a good peak shaving project. So even without a lot of interval data, you can just look at an electric bill and kind of tell if you have a great economic project on your hands. Or if it's mostly energy at that point, you would have to consider a solar plus storage strategy. I think what is so interesting about demand charges is that they can be anywhere. They don't have to be in solar traditional markets. They can be in rural America, peninsulas, mountains, sparsely populated areas, densely populated areas. So anywhere where there's kind of an extreme, you're likely to find a commercial demand charge. And, so getting to know your local commercial utility rates is important. And if you find a demand charge that's in, the $15 or up area, then you have a great commercial ESS strategy. And that can be important because as you can tell on this map, it's like, well, East Florida has a lot of demand charges, but West Florida, not so much. So it could be a very region specific market opportunity. And so in a peak demand or peak shaving project, you're literally just working on the very tip of the electricity. You're not worried about base load, and so this is not something that can take care of all of the electric bill like solar has in the past. You know, if you look at a peak demand charge and it's like 100 kilowatts, you might only be able to shave 30 kilowatts off of that 100 kilowatt demand charge effectively. And so what that means is sometimes a single inverter or even a single inverter with a single battery cabinet, even if the battery cabinet is derated, um, you know, that can be the most cost effective system. So it's like the reverse of solar, where the largest system was the most cost effective. When you have demand charges, often the smallest system can be the most cost effective, which is really interesting to me because in this case, you don't even need solar. The battery charges from the grid off peak, shown in red, and discharges in blue. And what it means is if you don't know what to sell, you know, starting them off with the smallest bite size of a project, you know, allows you to sell something today, and it allows you to sell something confidently without much knowledge of what's available on site. And you just have to kind of limit the features to be able to sell this today. And you know, if you sell them a cost-effective small project, these systems are so easy to expand. It's much easier to expand than our residential line. You're not sharing the batteries between the inverters. So you know, if you don't know what to, if you know what to sell, if you know to sell a large system, and we'll get to that, sell the large system. But if you don't know what to sell, going in and selling a single battery and a single battery cabinet can be a viable and cost-effective strategy. Um, so here it's if you do battery only or if you do solar only, you're not going to offset the entire electric bill. You know, if you want to offset the entire electric bill, you do need like a battery plus solar strategy. So there's nothing wrong with, you know, if you are doing a larger project, you know, having two inverters, you know, that's great with the Sunny Tricore 125 kW pair with two of our 60 kilowatt inverters, and you know, great project combination there, solar plus batteries. Um, you know, do a little bit more. Um, but what's I think there's when we start thinking about commercial ESS and especially containerized ESS solutions, we start thinking about whole building backup. And then we also see on the other end some installers just chasing economics only and not doing any backup at all. And I think application that deserves a little bit more attention is knowing that you can do a load side interconnection with our residential and commercial product line. So in in residential, the idea of having a essential loads panel and not doing whole home backup, like we've run away from that concept. No, homeowners want whole home backup. Homeowners don't want essential load backup. But Sol-Ark has always listed our products so that you can plug us in, you know, anywhere on a main service panel and then only provide backup power to an essential load panel, kind of regardless of the size of the interconnection, you know, independent of that 120% interconnect rule. And what this means with commercial is you could, instead of doing a whole building backup and backing up the entire commercial building with a small system, you know, with a system that's not really sized, you know, despite the grid pass through, a system that's not really sized to be large enough to do whole building backup. You know, the other option would be to walk into the control room, look at the most essential switch and ask the facilities manager out of everything you see in the control room, which of these breakers is the most important to back up? You know, oh, this is the one for the refrigerators. Oh, this is the breaker, you know, that governs the lighting system and the security system. Okay, we're going to put those sub panels onto the backup power system, and that's going to be the interconnection point, rather than do something more complicated like powering down the whole building and doing a very complicated supply side line side tap. Going for essential backup, because it gets you into these smaller projects that are, economically optimal. Even if it's a large facility, even if they have a 300 kilowatt load, it might be that, a 120 kilowatt ESS with 240 kilowatt hours of batteries really is the right economic size for the project. And it can provide backup power to essential loads, such that the client is more acceptable of a slightly longer payback than what becomes an economic only project requirement. So, you can tolerate paybacks that are within the 10-year warranty of the project instead of needing something even more aggressive than that. So to kind of round this presentation off, like, you can go into, the line side or grid side of the service, and you can do whole building backup with Sol-Ark. And we've been doing, 2000 amp service, grid pass through, even with three-phase, going back to our residential product line, even before we had a commercial three-phase out of the box product line for 208 or 480. So, we have experience with parallel inverters, and there's a lot of technical reason why we can do parallel inverters better than anyone. That's, we have these oversized grid relays built into, each inverter, so that helps not just with the single inverter installation, but, for parallel inverter grid seamless transfer. But for large systems, you are buying multiple inverters, you're combining them together on a panel board. I would look at what's the maximum load of the facility and pick as many inverters as meets that maximum load. And then I would just add one more inverter on for good measure, as far as what's the right size for a whole building backup. So whole building backup, it requires a more thorough design process. And, maybe the right solution is to sell them the small, load side connection system for peak shaving and economics and essential backup today. Get them a very cost-effective solution on site today, and then come back the next year with a system expansion. So we are in Energy Toolbase. You can, if you have an Energy Toolbase account, you can log in and design our commercial economic modeling with the Energy Toolbase tool. So you can just click on the Sol-Ark logo and away you go. What I like about Energy Toolbase is it creates, economic spreadsheets that will put a smile on the face of a CFO. And, when we're talking about 60 kilowatt hour or 120 kilowatt hour or 240 kilowatt hour projects, those are projects that a lot of businesses can just write a check for. So it's something that you can, sell, permit, load side connection for rapid permitting and inspection, get built today. So very interesting market. Even before Energy Toolbase, what I do is I just take the building interval data, which you can get ultimately from the utility, whether it's through their online account or asking the utility for the information. But when they provide building interval data, the first thing you should do is just graph it in Excel, because by just graphing it in Excel, you can kind of see the peaks. And in this case, it's very obvious that, a 60 kilowatt inverter would go a very long way with just, a battery or two to deferring that peak load. And that's without any, fancy software. That's just getting the interval data from the utility and looking at it. If you want access to some training information, training contents, copies of this presentation, just go to the Sol-Ark webpage and we have a contact us button. We have two contact forms. We have a contact form for technical support and we have a contact form for sales. For copies of this presentation, for sales follow-up, for design questions, we want you to send that through the sales team. The sales team has embedded field application engineers on staff that can answer your sales related questions. So, for copies of this presentation or other design questions, go to our website, use the sales contact form to contact the sales team. That leaves the support ticket form for installation and post installation issues. So try and limit your design questions to the sales team, and sometimes that's a quicker way to get design questions answered than going through the support team. Finally, this one will go fast, but there is another application we see all the time in the Sol-Ark architecture, and that's off-grid systems. And what's surprising to me about off-grid, a common one for us is solar carports. In this circumstance, it was for Costco, and they have a electric vehicle fleet, and their utility cannot provide them enough power to charge their EV vehicle fleet, in this facility. So, what is so interesting about this as an off-grid system is it's not that, the grid isn't there. It's just it's not worthwhile to bring the grid out to the parking lot. Let's just build a microgrid in the parking lot instead. And then here's another off-grid system in a similar vein. This is San Francisco Department of Public Works, and they're doing like a carbon offset tree nursery on the side of the highway. They need some electricity on site rather than uh, establish a new electric service. It's just easier to keep it all off grid. And there's skyscrapers in the background of this picture, yet this is an off grid site. So this is another area where if you are like me and you've been, installing solar for, years and years in the industry, um, having a preconceived idea of what off-grid is, off-grid is not just getting in a car and driving 3 hours down the road into the middle of the woods. Off-grid, as you can see in front of you, can be with skyscrapers in the background. So not limiting yourselves to the idea of what off-grid could be. It can be expanding existing grid service, or just be competitive with the rigmarole of bringing electricity to site. Now, we do have diesel abatement. So in the Bahamas, we do have microgrid communities. Some are for diesel assist, and others are for replacing the diesel entirely. So very interesting sites, and we do all that as well. If you need structural drawings, we do have stamped structural templates for our commercial series ready to go. If you need custom foundation drawings, we work with a company called Vector Engineering. You can reach out to them. They can stamp all up and down the West Coast for those areas of seismic activity. So just good to know. With that, any follow-up questions, again, go to our website, hit that contact us button, fill out a support ticket for our sales team, and that'll get you in touch with the member of our sales team who's managing your area. All right, that's it.
Um, okay, so we'll start probably now the Q&A section. I see several questions that came in. Let's see. John, do you want to read it, or the first one is pretty long, so let's start with that.
Yeah, let me unshare my screen for just a minute to get the chat interface back. I'll reshare it if I need to. And then go into the Q&A. So we're looking at the 60K. Application is a farm with grid power, three-phase, 480, 177 peak horsepower. Zero export is key. If zero export is key, you'll want a DC couple rather than AC couple. AC couple, the way that zero X we have AC coupling is difficult for zero export. High voltage batteries. If you're three-phase service, you're going to want to use high voltage batteries. The other option is to what we used to do before high voltage batteries, which would be to parallel Sol-Arks, multiple string inverters together in three-phase. And that's a thing you do because you have to, not because you want to. So you're going to want to use a three-phase 480 inverter, and you're going to want to use the high voltage batteries for that. Temperatures can reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit in Yuma. I would strongly suggest shading the outdoor batteries and not just leaving them unshaded and exposed to the sun. Don't need battery backup. Yeah, it depends on your rate policy. Cheap panels facing south, running during load, export risk, don't want to damage 60K, motor runs continuously. Yeah, I mean, what I would do then is just go for the minimum battery bank size. Grid tied batteries do help. So, will help with that export. I mean, the problem is to not export to the grid, you just need so many batteries compared to your solar. I mean, if the sun is only up for half the day and it's only productive for less than that, so let's say the sun is productive for a third of the day, to offset 100% of your load, that's two-thirds of your load going back to the electric bill for 100% offset. Now, if you're only running your load during the day, yeah, you still need to balance it out. So yeah, I would get a 480 volt inverter, the minimum battery cabinet, and then size your solar array accordingly. I need an outdoor 240 volt system. Advice, not wall mount. Yeah, use the Sol-Ark 15K. The Sol-Ark 15K is 240 volts. It's very scalable. We have multiple sites going up to 12 with the Sol-Ark 15K in series. Even in with commercial agricultural applications, you get a lot of split phase electric service. And, Sol-Ark is one of the only platforms that actually supports so many string inverters in parallel. And, part of the reasoning for that is we do have these oversized grid relay contactors that, buy you a lot of tolerance when it comes to doing high amperage seamless transfer on large services. So, if you're talking about large, power applications on 240 volt service, Sol-Ark is by far and away the uh, platform for that. Ross says, does fire suppression eliminate water sprinklers required by NFPA 855? It allows the inspector, it allows the AHJ to eliminate the water sprinklers by NFPA 855. So that's it's still up to the local jurisdiction and inspection process, but specifically it says if you're using aerosol-based fire suppression, the AHJ can exempt you from the water sprinkler requirement. My systems are large because they are multiple units in an apartment complex, but they are 240-volt residential voltage commercial size. Yeah. Um, in an apartment complex, there's generally all the meters are coming down into a single meter bank. Um, you know, there's so much of a what's your business strategy for providing these units to the apartment complex, and the ownership nature of the apartment complex is going to impact that as well. Um, I mean, it can be as simple as putting a Sol-Ark 15K on each apartment complex unit and plugging batteries and solar directly into each unit and having each unit be individually owned and operated, um, by each unit. Um, I think you have to look out for is apartment complexes that are actually on three-phase service, two legs of three-phase service, not 240-volt service. Um, let's see. Ross is asking about battery pricing. I think that we mentioned three options, all are distributed by RENVU. I think Discover is just getting started on RENVU, but I think that it's good to have a rule of three. Get at least three bids, and you're gonna get the value of battery choice by actively knowing about those options and from time to time checking in to see who's ahead on pricing or feature set. So just kind of like when you can pick your electric provider, and that means you have to switch up every few years to get that competitive pricing edge. And you'll you'll have to put in a little bit of elbow grease, but the reward will be competitive pricing and competitive features uh, to kind of best suit your company.
Yeah, to bounce off what John just said, one of the reasons we really like Sol-Ark is because they are battery agnostic, and we can look at all kinds of competitive options that are constantly changing. So just email in info@renvu.com. Let us know your application and size that you're looking for, and we'd be glad to help you out.
Yeah. Now, Ross said, how can I do self-consumption in the summer and buy at night, use at peak charge in the winter? Is that automatic, or do I have to select a control scheme? So, when I uh, first started to work with Sol-Ark, I was actually working for one of their battery partners, and I had come from the installation field, and seeing the Sol-Ark product line evolve, I felt like, man, if Sol-Ark had been around when I was still an installer, I'd probably still be an installer. Because what I liked about Sol-Ark was that it was very easy to install. You could just kind of punch in what it needed to do, and it would do it. Um, the market has advanced, and there are, like with Tesla or Enphase, AI modes of operation where the computer with a combination of, say, a storm guard feature come in and start making decisions for the customer. um, we don't have those features. What we have is a multi-season, so you can do beginning of winter, summer, and then end of the year winter season with different time of use settings and grid behaviors. So you can shape the the reserve capacity of the battery bank and how it feeds into the load or feeds into the grid based on six different time slots based on three different seasons. So that's what's included, and that covers so many different combinations of different, whether you're in California and you want to do time of use metering, but you also want to do a forced grid sellback, during the summertime in the evening. You can program all of that on the Sol-Ark even without using an app. You can just stand in front of the Sol-Ark and press buttons and get it done. Without a little bit of project planning ahead of time or knowing what you're doing, it can be a little complicated. So that is what I would use our website and our support team for. That is that if you don't know what the settings should be for the inverter going into a project, at the very least, go to our website and ask our team in advance and see if they can spin up an answer for you. Um, because we do have a seasonal controller. It is very customizable. And we have classes on our website to help explain those settings to get you through the project. What our goal is to make it easy for an installer to, if they have the sheet in front of them, to just turn on the inverter, tap the screen a few times, and then be able to successfully commission even without internet access or whatever else can go wrong on a site. Best resources for controls such as peak shaving functions. Um, so we do have a peak shaving target, and the peak shaving target is based on seasonal control. Um, the seasonal control is best programmed on site. Um, and so that is probably a gotcha of peak shaving with our formatting. Is you have to set the seasons, the program, the actual seasons on site. Um, Now that will give you 3-season control, and so that will give you the 3-season set point for peak shaving. And you would want to program the inverter to charge up the battery up to 100%. And so that when it's above the target, it discharges the battery, and when it's under the target, it charges the battery. Um, so it's the functionalities in there. I would, if you're doing commercial projects and planning for peak shaving, and feeling uncertain about it, I would hop onto our website, fill out our contact form with our sales team, and engage with our sales team, engage with the field application engineer for the region, and he'll get you the right settings for your project. So Bailey, you're asking about SCADA integrations and outputs for Sol-Ark. There are more SCADA integrations on the market today than there ever have been. I've never seen so many on the trade show floor. It's starting to become commonplace. So, Energy Toolbase would be the most prominent one. But we also have a few. There's Molecule, there's Watch, there's New Sun Road. I'm not sure about Alexity at the moment. Um, I'm not sure about Agito at the moment, but there's at least three. Um, and that's beyond the integrators who are participating in our integrator program and accessing the Modbus maps in that manner. So to kind of repeat, I would look up Molecule, Watch, and New Sun Road. Let's see. AC coupling of the battery was zero export difficult or impossible? Well, it's not impossible if you want to implement a load sync, and whenever you start exporting to the grid, turn on such a large enough load that you will not export to the grid. So, AC coupling with zero export is not necessarily impossible. Although if the inspector then says, no, I need to make sure that it's impossible even without a load sync, well, then that strategy won't work. Um, the fundamental difficulty with AC coupling and zero export is that you use frequency shifting to turn off the inverter. And if the grid is online, well, then you can't frequency shift because you can't frequency shift the grid. It's the stronger source. So, you need some other more advanced control scheme to disable the grid export with AC coupling. Can Sol-Ark be locked out to prevent tampering? Yes, Sol-Ark can be locked out to prevent tampering. There's an access code that would be needed to get back in once it's enabled. We cover this in our contractor training. That's kind of our Sol-Ark University closed door. Um, you know, without expecting to know about it, that again would be working with our sales team on the front end for planning. They'll tell you about that feature if you engage with them. Um, so you can do lockout. The other thing would be to just give them visitor access to the online monitoring rather than write access. So the combination of the two locks them out. 9540 certification version 3. Okay, so 9540 has gone through quite the evolution. It started out what everybody expected. Here is a listing for batteries with validation of their safety features. And that was version 1. In version 2, it was, oh, well, do batteries need to be co-listed with inverters because there's a busing system in between them? And where does the busing fall under, UL 9540? And that led to a few things. That led to inverters being co-listed on the battery listing. We work with this model. We have these configurations, and these configurations work with these models. But a real benefit from that is you started to have some battery manufacturers start to include really nice bus bars inside of their batteries, so that if you do have a jurisdictional hurdle where they want to see, listed bus bars, then you can go with, like, the Discover has one of their battery options has a very nice listed bus bar in their cabinet included. So now we're on version 3. And version 3 said, um, well, that version 2 went too far with saying that not only did the inverters be listed with the batteries, but that you couldn't have a battery be listed by itself at all. It had to have an inverter listed with it. And that basically took what was a battery safety listing away from battery manufacturers and forced them to become inverter manufacturers. And partnering it's quite difficult process, and these tests are expensive. And there were a lot of key players involved in providing feedback to the UL to say, no, bring back the battery only listing without the inverter co-listed. And that was brought back into Rev 3. So now we have many battery partners just getting the Rev 3 listing because it no longer requires the inverter co-listing. And so that's fine. That's great for industry that embraces where we were with Rev 1, which was, battery agnostic architecture, inverter agnostic architecture with regard to 9540. Um, Now, not necessarily all of the jurisdictions are up to speed on that and what that means. So, a number of our battery partners also continue to do the Rev 2 kind of co-listed philosophy just to cover all the bases and all the possible jurisdictions and all the different scenarios to say, we know this game, and in those jurisdictions, unless you also get the co-listing, even though it's no longer required, we still have to go get it co-listed because they're not going to accept anything but that to get into that jurisdiction. So I hope all of you want to claw your ears out at this point, because this is what bureaucratic red tape looks like to get through. It's an incredibly aggravating issue, but when it comes down to it, if you have 9540 Rev 3, it's a battery listing, and that means you're compatible with all of the inverters. And we have those 1741, grid interactive stuff as well. B, if you're in a jurisdiction where you still need a co-listing, uh, that's where we have like HomeGrid and Discover. I think Discover is Rev 3, but at HomeGrid and Renin have these co-listing certificates. So, just track one down if you're in those exceptional AHJs to figure it out because we've been doing business with HomeGrid for so long now. If you're in those very, very picky jurisdictions, that's the value of these long-term, partnerships is we've already smoothed out all the wrinkles. So just go with HomeGrid and Sol-Ark and you'll be fine in those areas. Pros and cons of low voltage and high voltage. High voltage is necessary to deliver a commercial building's worth of power. 48 volt is sufficient to deliver a residential, even large residential building's worth of power. The ampacity of large residential starts to get a little unwieldy. But that's really when you start getting to battery bank sizes that are well above 100 kilowatt hours. And, I don't think that even luxury homes need more than an 80 kilowatt hour battery bank. And that could be done with two 40 kilowatt hour stacks of Renon batteries right in front of a Sol-Ark 15K without any combiner block. So we're so spoiled now with a plethora of design configurations, that I think 48 volt is the right selection for residential because with residential, you have so many curious hands and eyes, around these systems, and 48 volt is less likely to jump out and grab you. So it's that safety comes into play. Um, outdoor cabinet systems from Sol-Ark, you'll have to really defer to the battery provider. I believe HomeGrid has the HomeGrid Power Cube that can utilize our 15K inverters, and that's a little bit more robust in terms of what you're looking for, Ross. So check out what HomeGrid has to offer. Um, you could also perhaps look at what Scott Hunt has done with Practical Preppers, although that was, you would use a not mount the inverters externally to the rack, but adjacent. So like Discover has an outdoor cabinet, um, and we have an outdoor inverter, so you can do outdoor systems. Mobile tactical power system in the 100 kilowatt hour range for a particular military application. Comment on BABA compliance. Jack Estes, who I would contact in our organization is Eric Brown. Um, Let me type his email. Eric Brown. Because he generally handles military. Okay, Eric and has his number. I would have Eric track down the BABA compliance. He will likely know more about that than me.
Okay. Uh,
Yep.
I think we covered everything. So thanks a lot, John and Kyle, for hosting this webinar with me today. Thanks everybody for participating and asking questions. We had a little more than an hour here, and it was super interesting, and I learned a lot. Our team will work on the recording and send follow-up email with the recording and more information about everything we discussed today in the following day or two. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
See you later, John.
Thank you.
Bye, Kyle.